Everyone's gonna get bare weird. Everyone's gonna get bare quiet because the fucking recording's going. So
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, we all be absolutely quiet. Right. No, all jokes aside, thank you everybody who has tuned in for a second time because for some reason we're interesting. But I hope everybody is having a good week, good day. How has your week gone, lads?
You can't ask us both at the same time because we're just gonna scream over each other, bro. John.
Okay.
Yeah.
John,
Let me go
Jack,
first. Let me pipe up. I mean, it's only Wednesday, so I mean, I can't see much going wrong with being only the third day into the week. But
okay,
I mean,
since we last recorded, then.
Since we last recorded, not a whole lot has gone on really. Just back on my first week of training again after being ill for 2 weeks.
Even
for those who cannot see, Luke just threw up a double bicep and he's looking quite monstrous.
Obese double bicep, bro. My BMI is over 30
now. That is actually jokes. Over 30.
Yeah, man.
Right, when's 40 coming?
You want to take gear?
Hey, what is my BMI? I actually wonder. I bet it's
right. Stop distracting. John, carry on. Right. How's training been since you were ill?
Yeah, training, back to training. The first 2 sessions have gone really fucking well. I don't know what it is recently, but my execution seems to be just progressing massively. I don't know whether or not it's like just my attention to detail has increased, or I've developed OCD in the 2 weeks being off. But the training execution's incredibly high. Focusing back on the diet now, progress is going to be insane in this next block.
Man's going to get fucking wham. Yeah, I was ill for like a week as well, and it's just atrocious. You feel like absolute shit. What about you, Jack?
Mate, fucking really happy with how things are going. I do an arm and delt block. Yummy. Who doesn't want more arms and delts? Only issues that I've had that I'm now recovered from is I had a little knee twinge and a little little low back issue. But everything seems to be going good. It's amazing what you can do when you're sensible with loading. Wow, who'd have thought?
Yeah, but what if I add like double the plates and then do half the range of motion? Is that okay?
Yeah,
will my knees be better then?
Yeah, that's fantastic because the less your knee moves, the less danger, you know. And really,
so what happens when I fail and then I get crushed by double the load that I'm not used to controlling in the bottom part of the range of motion?
Then you go on gym fails and you cash in, and then you buy a new pair of kneecaps. That's what I've been doing.
Or in the process, you absolutely
isn't that from the coaching money?
Yeah. Sorry guys, I need more clients because I need a new pair of knees.
Knee replacement. Like
need new knees. 4 slots have opened up, boys.
Is destroying the kneecaps worth that extra?
I bet that would fill up mega quick. Buy me a knee replacement.
I'll post it up. I'll just be like, rent's due. Right, 5 slots are on the team.
I think we need to delete this episode as well.
Guys, I've run out of cream of rice. If you would like to donate to my Patreon. Christ.
Fuck's sake. Right. How's uni done?
Oh,
you just started a new course, haven't you?
Yeah, so I was on computer science for ages because that's what, school's shit, fuck school. You just don't get to experience that many things. And then by the time you come to a decision-making age, that decision-making age is 17 and your name is Jack. The only thing that you've done up to this point is do computer science. And then you enter the gym at 17 and you're like, hey, this is okay. But you've been doing computer science for fucking like a decade. So you pursue that, then you do it to a uni level and then realize this is shit and I don't want to do this. So now I'm doing sports, fitness and coaching, put in, my fucking education where my interest is, level up the coaching business. So I have a bachelor's of science in making people wham pretty soon.
Is that what it says on the paper?
Yeah. It's the module currently is like how to muscle. And then the next module will be eating to muscle. And then I believe after that, it will be how to more muscle, I believe is next year.
That sounds extremely scientific, right?
Yeah.
Do you have a module all on how to be Big Rammy?
No.
Or is that second year?
No, that's masters.
Okay, right.
I don't know. The thing is, I don't know if I want to get that big. That's why I've not really been like training or eating properly. Because I don't want to get too big. That's the thing. That is a joke. I've been fucking on it. It just, I love when people say I don't want to get too big. That meme about.
I'm like, bro, I've been trying and I still look this shit.
Yeah, I'll say to people, I'll be like, do you think I'm too big? And they'll be like, no. And I'll be like, well, I've been like trying to get too big for almost 4 years now. So
if you get too big, what do? You just train less and eat less food. Job done.
I've had someone before be like, I don't want to get too big. And I said, right, if you wake up one day and look in the mirror and go, I've got too much muscle and I'm uncomfortable, I will refund you every single penny you've paid me. I said that and they signed up. So it worked. And
that's so good.
Lo and behold, they have never been too big. Fantastic.
I'm going to use that one. That one's incredible. Well, that sort of leads us on to one of the things we wanted to discuss today. Bodybuilding while at uni. Yeah, that was a segue and a half. Bodybuilding while at uni. How do we find it?
Stress. I think Jack, who coached me for a little bit for my first year,
yes, man, did.
Can definitely attest. I mean, obviously being at uni, all three of us, we can definitely attest to time not being our friend. Having to condense a lot of the work that you do just doesn't scratch that itch sometimes, but you kind of just have to fit in the work where you can, if that makes sense.
I think that for those that don't know, as a coach, I market myself much more towards busy people because I myself am a busy person. I think as a species, as people, we're all getting just fucking ludicrously busy. Everyone's ridiculously busy. No one has free time anymore. And the older you get, the less time you have. And without getting too marketing-y, I think...
Or philosophical.
I think that, when it comes to managing your time with training, it can be done. It just needs a little bit of extra care, and having someone kind of alongside, like working with John's extremely knowledgeable. And so the main reason that John, wanted a coach wasn't because I have some special, unique knowledge for John. No,
secrets.
He's a smart man. He knows what he's doing. It's because, it's nice to have someone in your corner being like, you're doing enough. Now you can go on with the rest of your day and fucking be a uni student because you've done the bits that you need to.
Yeah, especially when you sort of start to get into this a little bit more seriously, whether that be training or you want to pursue bodybuilding at some point. It's a reasonable thing to assume that more is better. But like Jeff Nippard did a sick video on this the other day, actually, that the amount of work you need to do to make good fucking progress is nowhere near as much of the amount of work you need to do to make the most fucking progress. Like if you're at uni, you can only fit in 3 sessions a week. Fucking shitloads of people have made incredible progress on training full body 3 times a week. And if that's what you can fit in, that's what you can fit in. And if you don't drink like a twat and you eat a reasonable amount of food, you're going to make some good progress. I think for the majority of people, those, especially uni students, those are going to be the big barriers, is sorting out your nutrition and sorting out the ludicrous amount of alcohol people at university can sometimes consume.
Yeah, people just fucking drink until it's fun, and then if you go up to someone halfway through a night out, I reckon genuinely, if you did this, let's do this as a survey. You go up to someone halfway through a night out and you say, do you genuinely, in your heart of heart, want to drink more? I guarantee 80% would say, I could take it or leave it. But just because everyone else is going to keep drinking, everyone else is going to keep drinking. And it's this weird fucking little circle jerk of like, we're all going to get blackout drunk. And then the next day, they're like, well, I was having a good night and then I got blasted and now I feel like shit. And
yeah, do you remember any of your night? No, not really.
I've got nothing against alcohol or drinking. I enjoy it. If you enjoy it, more power to you. It's a great tool. It's a great tool, boys, to deploy, to have a good night out. But if you're at uni or if you go into uni and you've hit your limit, just stop drinking. You don't need to keep drinking. It's the same with anything.
I think it does come down to the crowd you kind of associate with as well. Because don't get me wrong,
absolutely.
A lot of sport and exercise science students, don't get me wrong, they have fun. I mean, I was showing a video of someone thrown over someone else's shoulder and they were completely limp. But I think it definitely does come down to the crowds and who you kind of make yourself out to be at uni as well. Like,
Yeah,
obviously
if
be
you're
yourself.
known as Billy Big Bollocks who drinks everything, then of course people are going to try and make you drink everything.
People are going to egg you on. That's just that's life. That is society. But I think if you truly like want to make, or not even want to make progress, but just be reasonable and leave yourself in somewhat of a functional state the next morning.
Yeah.
I think that should kind of be assessed. I think with the time restrictions as well, Jeff Nipper did a post. He said, would you take working out for 1 hour to make 98% of the progress, or work out for 3 hours to make 100% of the progress? I think you should kind of look at that the same way as going out, if that makes sense. Would you rather have that extra drink to get more fucked up, but then leave you immobilized the next day?
Yeah. Once you've had
sorry, Jack, carry on.
Once you've had 4 pints, mate, do you need the 5th? Do you need the 6th? You know?
Yeah, you sort of want to like surf that wave, so to speak, of you have a couple of drinks, you start to get to that point where your inhibitions are a bit lower, you can go and talk to that bird if you think she's fit, and all that bloke, and you can have a little dance and not feel like an absolute twat because you have no idea how to dance and you think everybody's going to judge you, but you don't want to get to the point where you're the guy that's thrown up in the middle of the dance floor, or you're pounding 6 kebabs on the way home, because who's that good for? Well, the guy that owns the kebab shop, but but yeah, there's a good point that you want to be at, and then you just want to keep topping it up with, if you have an extra drink an hour, quality. And another good thing which I like to do as well, so you don't feel like absolute shit the next day, is every other drink is water, because everyone around you is so pissed anyway they don't realize. So you can get away with it quite easily, and jokes on them because they feel like shit for the next 2 days.
Yeah, I think the key takeaway that we're kind of all leading to as well is, when you go to uni, you have to, the best way I can put it is, be unapologetically yourself. Like,
yes,
if you are done drinking, you are done drinking. There's no fucking words that anyone can say to you to make you drink more. If you want to drink more, that's on you. Don't let anyone push you to do anything. And like, I think it's taken me, well, I've been at uni for, it's been over 2 years now, so I'm technically in my 3rd year, even though it's the first year of a new course. It's taken me like 2 years of uni.
Yes, Jack has now committed 5 years to university.
Yeah, big learning. Let's go. Come on. Choo. I love the debt, bro. I'm just kidding. Yeah, like, it's taken me this long to kind of realize that, like, I'm just going to be myself, and if people were, you know, gonna not like that, then that's on them, you know.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's another big thing when it comes to like managing your calories and getting your training sessions in, is people will always say, oh, I couldn't stick to my diet because so and so gave me this, where we all have the ability to say no to things. And then, yes, of course, it's easier to blame someone else, but when you sort of take responsibility for your own actions, whether that be alcohol, whether that be getting yourself to the gym, whether that be saying no to things that you don't really want to have but people are pressuring you to do, you're going to make a shit ton more progress, because you're not subject to doing the shit that other people are trying to force you to do.
I think also, like, just happiness in general. I mean, how many students or how many people do you know that just love getting on it, and then the next day they're just what do you call it? They're just not themselves. Yeah. They're a ghost of the man they used to be, or woman, or they, them.
Covering all the boxes there. Very nice. Yeah. Very good. Good
save. What if I want to be an Apache helicopter?
That's
on you guys. That's on you guys.
Okay, sorry. Has anyone ever trained the day after going out?
I have. I know I did first year.
Bro, I did legs. It was the worst thing I've ever did. It was like literally freshers week. And it was back in the days where I thought you had to barbell squat for big legs. That is not a true fact.
No, you do.
And
that's a joke. Please, no one take that out.
Yeah, and my likelihood of throwing up was extremely high that day. I'm not quite sure how I managed it not to. But yeah, I would never recommend that you train with a hangover.
Yeah, I always say just push things back a day. It's not worth it. you know.
Or schedule it so it's a rest day then the next day if possible, with your training split, something like that, because you're going to be in a situation where you've had a night of really, really shit sleep. So performance is going to be off, and the likelihood of injury is obviously not going to be ideal. Like one of my clients had a night out, and then he went and maxed out squat. This was before we worked together, but he maxed out squats the next day, and now he's got a back injury that's like still bothering him a year later, and like it's just not fucking worth it.
Yeah. If you're going to have a night out, the odds of you being able to progress your numbers, progress your lifts, and present a good stimulus is so low, but you're still going to take on a session's worth of fatigue. Even if, you know, it's a push session, pull session, whatever, you're still putting your body through that. You're still giving your body something to recover from. And if you'd have taken all of that energy that you put into that session and you pushed it back a day when you were feeling fresher, you could have done all of those sets and push numbers so much better and so much easier. Or, you know, just giving yourself a better stimulus to grow tissue with the same amount of fatigue, if that makes sense. A fumble mark.
Absolutely. Yeah, mate. On the money there.
Right.
100%.
Bodybuilding at uni, that is fucking boxed off. And what I wanted to talk about a little bit.
If anyone's got any questions on that though, DM us.
Yeah.
Or ask for the next podcast.
But you probably don't, because we've just nailed it. So that's
we've just covered the entire subject.
Yeah, go on, John.
How often do you guys go out? What kind of rules do you guys stick to, or how often?
When I fucking want to, but I just don't want to. So, like, I went. Nobody tells me what to do. So the last proper night out I had was in like April. Then I went to a festival, had a couple of drinks there, but was by no means really, really drunk. And then I'm going out for my birthday. So like that's gonna be like 4 times this year.
Yeah, I go out whenever I want and I drink whenever I want. I just am reasonable with it. So I normally go out with mates weekly. And when I go out, I'll just leave myself some calories to play with. So if I want a pizza.
Oh yeah, you play with those calories?
Oh yes, bro, like a fiddle. Ooh. I'll save my off-plan meal, or I save some calories. So like if I'm going out, then I can have a drink if I want. I can have a pizza if I want. I never go out with like, okay, today I'm going to stay sober. Today I'm going to get pissed. Today I'm going to, you know, like if I've already had my off-plan meal, then I'll just meal prep and take that with me. But yeah, like I, you know, do whatever I want and just make sure that I've got the allowance for it. And there might be a few days where like if I've gone out and I've gone slightly over on like food than I planned, then I might cycle a few of those calories on a rest day or slowly pull them throughout the week. So say if I've had my last meal and now my mates want to go out for a pizza, you know what, I'm willing to take on those calories, and I eat 700 extra. Okay, for the next 7 days I might just have 100 less calories. That's okay with me, you know.
Would you have pineapple on that pizza?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Do your guys after a night out, does your water intake the next day at all change, and does your salt intake change at all? Because obviously for those who are at this level where they are tracking water and salt intake, this is quite useful information.
Luke, you want to go first?
So the protocol that I recommend is, as I sort of touched on earlier, water every other drink. Make sure that you're salting all your meals. My preference would be pink salt because it's the shit.
Sex.
Amazing.
So yeah, if you've got like some electrolyte, did you say it's the sex?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
It's literally cock, bro.
Well, I'm not into that, so I'm gonna pass on that one. But yeah, so make sure that you're salting all your meals anyway as normal, and then if you've got some like an electrolyte powder, something like that, just scoop it up when you get home. Then hopefully you're not going to feel like absolute shit. But the majority of the time, even when I just did like normal salt on my meals and water every other drink, I actually felt all right the next day. So I think the not drinking like a bell end is key, and making sure that you drink plenty of water, and also cutting off alcohol like 2 hours before, because otherwise you're going to get really fucking shit sleep, and you're already getting less sleep anyway. So
yeah, pretty much I'd say the same thing as Luke. In terms of salt, I don't feel the need to change things. I'll just drink a little bit more, and then if I'm feeling dehydrated the next morning, I might drink a little bit more there. But if you're being somewhat like reasonable with your alcohol intake. If you're getting like tipsy, buzzed, a little bit drunk, and not fucked, and you're drinking water throughout the night, you will probably be fine. You probably don't need to play around with things too much. And then when it comes to like the morning after, I just say, you know, um, fucking what's the phrase I was going to use? It's literally escaped my mind. I'd say it's pretty intuitive with like hydration. So if you're feeling a bit more dehydrated, if you're thirstier, drink a bit more water, maybe have a bit more salt. But yeah, if you're being reasonable, you shouldn't run into any issues just having a bit more water.
Yeah, solid. John with the insights, making sure we don't skip over anything valuable.
Oh, yeah.
See, Jack, we would have missed that because we were like, "Yep, box it off," and John's like, "No, you two are both shit."
Yeah, so John's now number one in the podcast. Me and Luke are now battling for second place. What I wanted to talk about is, I'm cutting you off, Luke. That's it. Now go on. What were you going to say?
I wasn't going to say anything useful, mate. Fucking go.
No. It feels like, because we're three young men, we are three well-hung go-getters who are little whamlets who are interested in the art of building muscle, getting on stage in your pants. And either we want to do it or we want to watch people do it, because that's the little people we are. I feel like
this is the end all and be all of our existence. It's the only thing we live for.
If I don't get to see people in their pants, my life would not be complete. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I'd take back every macro if I could. John, everyone's sighing and face palming. I was going to say,
get to the point. Get to the point.
It feels like nowadays more than ever we're seeing so many people quit bodybuilding. Like even Jamie Johal recently, the giant, he quit to pursue, seeing his family. I feel like James Hollingshead, he's not shown as much interest. I'm going to mention more than just British people, but JP obviously quit. Joe Brightman going to CrossFit. And then you had, what was his mate? Him and Joe.
TM Cycles.
Thomas Moore.
TM Cycles, and there was another guy, wasn't there? TM Cycles obviously quit bodybuilding. So there's another guy who moved to CrossFit. Fuck's his name?
Should we get some of these people on our podcast?
Yeah, no. Oh, yeah. The only thing stopping us getting Brightman is that we haven't asked. Yeah. I feel like as well with you got like Kuba wanting to move to classic, and obviously a lot of bodybuilders died this year and last year. I feel like there's quite a big, even though the sport is in general growing, there's a lot of great young talent out there, which is just us three. We are the great young talent. I feel like a lot of people are starting to shy away from it and or retire early and or kind of say, you know, the dream of being an Olympian is like, okay, maybe not, maybe I'll just like see how far I can go and then pull the ripcord. I don't know. What do you boys think? It's an interesting topic. Do you have any insight?
For those who are already competing at a high level, I think the drugs aspect is definitely becoming, or not the drugs aspect, but the health around the drugs being taken has definitely become a lot more well known, if that makes sense. Like Kuba, for example, is not very recently, but switched up his way of thinking when it does come to drugs. He's definitely uber concerned with mitigating any health side effects that he has at the minute. I don't know, like obviously drugs not being the end all and be all factor, but I think a lot of the time it does take to pursue this goal, people kind of put to the forefront of their mind and realize that they can actually grow their business a lot more.
It's as much of a time investment as it is a health investment as well. Like if you look at the guys that are in the top, yes, they've taken a lot of drugs as well, but they've also spent fucking decades doing it. And that might feel like at the time, yeah, this is something that they're happy to invest. But looking back, I'm sure some people do have a lot of regrets. And I know personally that I don't want to have those regrets. I want to look back and be like, yeah, this is time well spent. And being realistic about things, it'd be fucking sick for me to turn pro. Am I going to do it naturally? Absolutely fuck no. Obviously not. So that's one sacrifice that I've got to make. And there are people out there that have got such fucking good genetics that they can turn pro naturally. Those are the guys that are born to go to the top. Am I born to do that? No. I'd like to develop a pretty cool physique. I'd like to present some good shit on stage, but have I got the capacity to do that? Probably not. And you'll know if you do, because you'll walk into a gym, you won't even fucking pick up a weight. You'll scan your fingerprint on the fucking scanner and you'll build muscle because you're that fucking prone to do it. And there are people out there that sort of have that capacity. So that sort of, I guess the time for me to step away would be when it's no longer adding to my life and it's taking away from it.
I like that. That's a good way of thinking. I think Luke's mindset to bodybuilding in terms of goals and aspirations is the one that is kind of best. You know, I'm seeing a lot of people now have that mindset of, you know, back in the day it was very much like, okay, if you're a bodybuilder, you're going for the Olympia, you're going for the top, regardless of what's happening. You know, you're there to be the best. And I think really what bodybuilding to me is kind of building yourself up, seeing how far you can go, and like you kind of have to have iterative goals. So like I want to compete within the next 2-3 years. PCA first timers, under 23s. My goal now is to win that show. Beyond that, fuck knows. But currently that's what we're working towards.
But even before then, like that goal in a couple of years' time is not fucking motivating you on the days that you're like, I really don't want to fucking train today. So having little goals, whether it be I want to lose a pound this week, or I want to add 2.5 kilos to my deadlift, or some shit like that, that's what's going to sort of keep you motivated. And then as you see that progress, so incremental goals, yeah, fucking key. Because if we were all chasing down a goal that's 10 years away, that just the thought of achieving that is not going to keep you going for 10 years.
Yeah, I for me, like currently, because I'm pushing weight up, it's to gain roughly 1% a week, keep things in a tight spot, and progress my numbers as much as possible. Just beat that logbook while keeping lifts, you know, standardized and accurate. But yeah, I think that what you talked about with like people losing time and memories to bodybuilding, I think that's such a huge thing. And I see people doing it with just like general interest in fitness. And I love that phrase, memories over macros. You see people who are like, I just want to get in better shape, and then they're out like thinking that they have to miss on nights out or miss out on things. And I'm like, look, you know, your goal is just to look slightly better. Like you don't need to be stressing about this miniature stuff. And when you're older and you're not looking your best, you know, you want to look back and say that, you know, you had a great time, that your growing up was like stress-free and you enjoyed your 20s or your teens, whatever, you know.
I don't just want to paint the rosy picture that you can do whatever the fuck you want and still get in shape, because obviously if you could do that, you'd be in shape right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, you are going to have to make some sacrifices, but it's not 100% or nothing. Like absolutely 95% is still pretty fucking good.
Yeah, sorry, that is a fantastic point as well, that yes, their sacrifices have to be made. And it's kind of like finding that and finding your own personal comfort level with like, you know, there's going to be a balance of what you want to do and how you want to look, and finding that kind of balance. But I think, most people end up kind of being on the extreme of being super unhappy with how they look, but kind of doing whatever the fuck they want and like trying to bury it with food or alcohol or drugs, whatever. Or you see people who are super obsessed with how they look, even if they have crazy goals of being a great bodybuilder, they're just missing out on everything going on around them. And unless you're an Olympia competitor, an Olympian in prep, or you know, you're going for a top show and you're in prep, I don't think there's really a reason for you to be missing out on shit. Like look at Nathan D'Asher. He's in the Olympia and he still is like, yeah, mate, I enjoy my life. You know, I'll go out for a drink.
He's also got incredibly good genetics. Let's just preface that for the people who don't know who he is. So how we could apply that to sort of the day-to-day person is like, say you're going through a 16-week diet. You can probably still go out and have a drink for at least the first half of that. When it gets towards the tail end, it's a little bit more difficult. You haven't got as much energy. Calories are going to be lower. Then maybe you pass on those nights out until you're back into a maintenance phase or a muscle building phase where it's not as much of an issue. And I think that's going to be a better way to go about it, because at some point it is going to inhibit your progress, but you don't have to completely get rid of those things at all.
Yeah, exactly. If your goal is to diet down. You just need to be in a calorie deficit and make sure that you're, ideally you want to be progressing on numbers in the gym. And so I always say to people, like, as long as, scales moving vaguely in the right direction, you're feeling good, and lifts are moving in the right direction, then we're in a good spot,
Yeah. John, anything to add?
Sweating.
No, I 100% agree. Definitely give and take. Don't get me wrong. Like, pick and choose your battles. If it's something out of your control that's stopping you from progressing, easier said than done, but try not to stress too much, because that stress is just not going to be beneficial in any sort of way. And don't use any recreational activities to deal with that.
Fair play. Right. So I put a question box up. And one of the questions I got was essentially, how do we go about body recomposition? When is it appropriate, and when would it be more beneficial to go through phases of cutting and bulking?
Do we know who this question is? Is this question come from a student?
That is a very good. I don't believe he's a student. No.
Right.
I'm just going to shoot to the toilet as well, so I'm going to mute myself, and you guys can answer that.
John, do you want to go first, or do you want me to tackle it?
Well, I can kind of come from a student perspective if you want, and you can come from a man who's maybe
a mun.
I think for a student, again, definitely comes down to picking and choosing your battles. Jack can also attest to this, being one of my coaches. Allowing yourself time to properly pursue those types of goals. So if your goal is to lose weight, I mean, for me, I find that quite a difficult thing. I'm very much a food-focused person, and I love to eat, essentially. So in semester time, I don't really find there's much point in pursuing a weight loss goal, or like an extreme, in quotations, bulking goal or weight gain, while it is more preferable to go for the weight gaining option, because obviously dealing with stress, the food diet can kind of be somewhat more beneficial. But I think once a semester is over, although it's not that long of a period, you can get quite a lot achieved in that period, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think that's a fantastic point that I didn't really initially think of. I have done this with people. If you're going through a busy time, and say you're in a diet, you're in a bulk, whatever, they can be stressful times. They can be hard to manage. And if you are busy, if you are someone studying or working, it can make sense to bring things to a maintenance point, just purely to allow yourself room to breathe. If you know that you've got an exam week, it's going to be much easier, especially if you're dieting down, to pull calories up to maintenance, to chill out a little bit, and to give yourself a bit of a break. So yeah, if you're running into like time restriction, or you're going through a very stressful phase, and I would definitely run a maintenance phase during that. Outside of that, I would normally run a maintenance phase, a short one after a diet phase, just to kind of get that reverse diet going, just to reintroduce food, see how digestion sits with people, see how long it takes us to get energy levels back if they've dipped. And then for some people, I may run it after a gaining phase, just because, again, I think it's good to kind of, some people might want to cut a gaining phase short, especially if you've grown up on the leaner side. You're a little bit more sensitive to having fat on your frame. And so pulling back things, giving people a maintenance of say 4 to 6 weeks, they might actually say, you know what, I'm comfortable, it's given me time to think, and now I do want to push things up. Or with some people, they might just want to pull things down. But typically I'd say I'd run a short period after a bulk or after a cut. Luke, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts.
So I feel like you guys sort of veered off from the question, to be honest. So like body recomposition, to me, that's losing muscle. That is what the podcast is about. Gaining muscle whilst losing body fat. So how to do that? I think that the best way to sort of tackle that question is to discuss when it's going to be appropriate to actually try and recomp, because for some people it's you're trying to chase two rabbits and you catch fucking neither of them. I don't think I could catch any rabbit anyway. But when do you think it is appropriate to pursue body recomposition, or would it be better to go for a cut and then a bulk, or a bulk and then a cut?
So normally with people, say if I've got an untrained individual where they've got a little bit of fat on them, like, you know, the classic, you're a bit skinny fat. Normally what I would run for someone like that, again, this isn't something that I haven't made a post about should you bulk or cut, because I think it's so person dependent, and it depends on, you can't just say to someone, if you feel fat, cut, if you feel skinny, bulk, because our own perceptions of who we are and how we look can be so skewed. But if you have got someone where, okay, there's a bit of fat to pull off and we would like to put on some muscle, I would run a very shallow deficit. I would rather take off that little bit of fat. And especially if they're a newer individual to training, it's going to be much, much easier to put on new tissue. So losing about 1/4% to 0.5% a week, maybe even sticking to 1/4%, and just gradually shifting down that scale. You probably won't even have to do it for that long, just until they're in a leaner position, and then you could run a maintenance phase holding that body weight, or you could push things up. That's normally how I would run a little recomp, basically a very shallow diet.
That's really interesting to hear, because I actually do things slightly differently.
Ooh,
so
beef.
Yeah, beef. So when I have somebody who their long-term goal is to build muscle, but they've got a bit too much body fat for that to just go straight into a muscle building phase, essentially, is I'll go for a more aggressive diet but get it done quickly, and then get straight into that muscle building phase. Because like my sort of perception is, if you can get it done faster, do it faster. As long as you're not risking excessive rebound gain and shit like that.
Yeah.
So in terms of the people who I think it's appropriate to pursue body recomposition, there's a couple of scenarios where you can build muscle and lose fat at the same time, which would be, as you said, an individual who's new to training, somebody who's previously been in better shape than they have been before, and they're like essentially regaining old muscle that they've had and losing body fat, which they've now got, or somebody who's like coming back from an injury, which is a similar sort of scenario. And then of course you've got the caveat of someone taking anabolic steroids, but for the majority of our listeners, that's probably not going to be the case.
Yeah, so I would definitely run a more aggressive, if you've got someone who's well trained, you know, they've been training for a while, and particularly as well, if you've got someone where their maintenance calories or the food that they've been having is high, running an aggressive diet definitely works. But going back to that, I guess in my head I was thinking more of this kind of you know, I hate the phrase skinny fat, but people are going to know what I mean when I say that. The skinny newbie to the gym, their maintenance calories might be around 2000. I wouldn't want to aggressively push that down, and I'm sure Luke, you would agree. I would give them a shallow deficit, and then it might even be with some people that you'd want to kind of spend a bit of a maintenance phase holding body weight, but introducing food to try and hold body weight as best you can while getting food high to give you room to diet down. That's also something that's another option that you have. But yeah,
absolutely. Because if you've got no room to go in terms of calories, then like, what the fuck do you do when somebody stops losing weight?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's a really, really tricky scenario for a lot of people, because they want to lose weight. They've tried before, and they're now in a position where they've got sort of no room to push without making the diet ridiculously difficult to adhere to. So that's another reason why a longer term maintenance phase could be beneficial as well. Like if you're trying to lose a bit more body weight than you can do in one hit.
Absolutely, man.
John, have you got anything to add? Because Jack and I have been chatting absolute shit
for
the last 10
minutes. You both kind of alluded to what I wanted to get at, and that's just a proper assessment of the person and their capability to meet the demands of what they're trying to do, really. It's like for myself, I find cutting like an extreme amount of food really quickly incredibly hard. I'd rather take that much more longer term approach. Exactly.
I love it. I'm like, fucking make it savage, bro.
You've got no appetite though, you pleb.
No, but I've been on a meal plan now. So the last one was Friday. This is Wednesday. So that's going better.
Push. Oh, yeah.
in terms of I haven't thrown up this week, but yeah,
What
appetite
appetite hacks have been
Body
included?
So that's a very, very good point. So whey is 4 out of my 5 protein sources for the day. So we know that is incredibly fast digesting. So that's been a good thing. Making things nicer tasting as well. Like for example, my beef meal, I'm cooking fresh because it takes fucking 30 seconds. So I'm just doing that because it just tastes so much nicer than doing that. So that's another appetite hack. Liquid calories, obviously, but that's something I was already doing. Yeah, just deploying easier digesting sources. So blending shit up so it digests faster, liquid calories, whey protein, and then literally just minimum amount of veg possible. So all I've got is 100 grams of spinach and 100 grams of beetroot a day. And then fruit wise, 2 bananas, but fucking bananas taste sickly as hell to me. And then 200 grams blueberries. I think that's all my fruit and veg actually. So yeah, reducing the fruit and veg as well, because I'm like, I would just eat more veg than I actually need to, because I'm like, what if I don't hit my micronutrients?
Your food's already quite high for your body weight, so I'm sure that you probably fucking.
Bro, it's like 26 calories per pound.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. That was a bit of a segue. Segue? No, because segue's in the right direction. What's the right word? Where you sort of fuck off in the wrong direction.
Fuck off
Detour?
in the wrong direction.
Detour? Is that the right one?
Sure.
Yeah. Bit of a detour. Sorry, people.
We also caveat with any questions with part of the reason that coaching is done individually and not templated is because when someone asks, when should you recomp, the direct and best answer really is depends on the person.
Yeah, dickhead answer. It's such a dickhead answer.
Yeah.
Like, why is this guy keeping secrets from me? But it's like in reality, if you want the best possible answer, you need a shit ton of information from somebody.
Yep. You need to pay the coach to find out. Hey.
Yeah. So this entire episode has actually just been a plug for our services.
Yeah.
So
we're not telling you shit, guys.
No, in reality, if you've got any questions on the shit that we spoke about today, DM us and we will do our very, very best to answer it.
Yes.
Probably go to Jack or John because they actually study this shit at university. Just a hobby. It's just a hobby for me.
We are 3 very, very knowledgeable people, and we're also living on Instagram. So if you do have any questions, please ping them over because we all love a little chit chat. And there's a reason that we're doing this podcast.
We will bombard you with voice notes.
Bombard me. Get fucking
right. I think that's a good place to end the episode. Actually.
Yeah.
Do we think we've covered everything we need to?
We can save some questions for next week. If people want to head over to @JCC Training, and he'll put up a question box for next episode. If people want to head over to @Lactic Addict Loop, this is on Instagram. I'm sure that he will also be putting up a question box. And please,
or if there isn't one on my stories, just DM it to us and we'll say that.
Yeah, and please, by all means, do not go to @Jack Archer Coaching on Instagram because he will put up a question box. Please leave it empty.
Make Jack feel worthless. Don't
engage with me, guys, please.
If you're horrible enough to him, you might die so again.
Yeah, I'm a horrible guy. I'm really horrific. I pay my clients. I'm like, guys, please don't leave. And they're like, oh, but you're such a dickhead. And I'm like, please, guys, please stay with me.
Right, I'm ending the recording because that's absolutely atrocious.
Cheers all.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you for listening to our shit, and I hope you've all had a lovely time. Please, John, please,
yeah, go on.
Rate us in the what's it called? The rating section of Spotify.
Yeah,
rate us, give us 5 stars because we're great. John, what was John going to say?
Parting ways of wisdom, because we've shouted over you all podcasts. So now's your time to shine sunshine.
Read a book.
What book?
Atomic Habits by James Clear.
End it. That's perfect.